I've been standing here for about 5, 10, 15 minutes before you came, and as soon as you arrived, loads and loads of people from the Muslim community have come and shook your hand and wanting to speak to you. And somehow I feel it's not just because you're the leader of the council. I think it's because you're a Muslim male, a very committed Muslim male, and you're linking in with the Muslim community in a big, big way, both personally and professionally. How does faith play a part in your role as leader of the council?
First of all, prior to coming doing this interview, myself and my colleagues with dedicated council officers have spent 2 hours walking around Birkby, looking at grot spots, walking around other parts of Greenhead Ward. And we've met hundreds of residents this morning, and we've identified dozens of grot spots that need clearing up as well. And because we do that all year round, people recognise us on the street, they know who we are, and they don't hold back in coming and talking to us. And I've also noticed, Milton, and you're a bit shy about this, but all these people have been coming up and talking to you as well. So you've grown up in this local community as well, and the last person who just spoke to us from the mosque, one of the scholars there who's out visiting people in their homes now, has known you for a number of years, and it's great to be part of a community where, regardless of people's background or faith, people rub along with each other really well. And sometimes that's been tested, hasn't it? When it was quite apparent that one of the 7/7 bombers actually came from this area. Lived in Dalton, worshipped here at one of these mosques in Birkby. And what happened is our community in Huddersfield, no matter who they are, whatever faith they've followed, we all rallied round to support each other at those difficult times. And our community didn't get stigmatised as a result of that. And faith plays a very important part in the role of many communities in here. Last Saturday morning I was at St John's Church here in Birkby. They were having a fundraiser for their church for improvements to there. This afternoon I'll be praying in the mosques here. And faith actually brings these people together from different backgrounds, because faith has some very common values. It's about how we treat each other, and it's about looking after the most vulnerable in society and doing the decent thing. So being a Muslim, I also understand that, faith is something that binds communities together. Use my faith in many different ways. My faith defines my politics. It's because I believe that faith is something that brings communities together. Faith isn't something that divides communities. And also faith's core values across all of the faiths is about doing the right thing in helping each other. And that's why, as a Labour politician, I believe that as a community and a council is the part of the community, working together we can achieve far more than we can on our own. And during Ramadan, myself and colleagues are fasting currently at the moment from early hours, 3 o'clock in the morning till 9 in the evening. And the biggest impact upon that is actually fatigue. After the first week of fasting, you're used to not being able to drink or eat, but working 60, 70 hours a week and not eating or drinking for the vast part of that does have an impact, and it is mental fatigue as well as physical fatigue. You're working a bit slower, your mind's not as sharp as it normally is.
I can imagine.
But the good thing is that my colleagues who aren't fasting, they understand that. They take that into account as well. And we do, fortunately it's in August when we can manage our diaries a bit better as well. But I remember as a young child, my father working in this mill just behind us now, Stork Brothers, worked in there, as did your family as well. And they were fasting, these long fasts, and they were working really, really hard, producing fantastic cloth for our local
and a very,
economy.
very hot place.
And it was a really hot place.
Yeah.
So in many ways, I think myself and my generation have got an easy life, because we're not working in those really difficult conditions in a textile factory, spinning material, weaving cotton, etc., and fasting at the same time. So, my dad, I'll see him this evening when it's time to open the fast, and he'll take pity on me because he thinks I've really worked hard, but I know inside, I do tell him, I says, Dad, we could not have done a fraction of what you did as the first generation that came to this country and fasting and working in labour-intensive jobs.
Could you just explain for the non-Muslim people in our communities in Kirklees, what is the whole rationale behind Ramadan? And is it that you have to pray 5 times a day during the day? And as the leader of the council, how do you manage that?
There are five pillars to Islam. And one of the pillars is during the month of Ramadan is to fast. The Islamic calendar is based on the lunar calendar. So the months move throughout the year. This time of the year, the fast is the longest that it'll be. We will be, in a few years to come, we'll be fasting in January and December, so it'll be shorter fast. But the meaning behind fasting is to remind ourselves what it's like not to have food and water. There are millions on this planet, even in 2012, who every day go without food and water. So it's to remind ourselves of that, and it's also to remind ourselves sometimes we all do it. We fall into the pattern of taking for granted what we have in our lifestyles. We take for granted what God's given us. That, fine clothing, lovely homes, motor cars, all these things. And fasting is a way that this religion has of reminding its followers, Muslims, that that God provides and we shouldn't take it for granted. At the end of fasting, at the end of Ramadan, we will celebrate the fact that Ramadan's over, and we will also give what's called zakat, which is a kind of tax. And it started off when Islam started nearly 1500 years ago. You give 2.5% of your wealth to poorer people, because on Eid, at the end of Ramadan, people who have got money will be celebrating. They'll be wearing new clothes, giving each other presents, and also feasting. But those who are have-nots, we don't want to leave them behind. So the religion says give 2.5% of your wealth to the poorest, so that they also can take part in Eid at the end of Ramadan as well. Now, there are certain people who are exempt from fasting. Children are exempt from fasting, even though school holidays now. I know many young kids are doing it.
Why are they exempt from fasting?
It's because they haven't reached adulthood, and it might have an impact on their health. People who have got health conditions that might be worsened as a result of fasting don't have to fast as well. The elderly, many of them do try to fast as well, but they have health conditions that, if their GP says that fasting will make you extremely ill, you could end up in hospital, they're exempt from fasting on that. Praying 5 times a day is difficult. I mean, I try to pray as often as I can. Friday prayers in mosques is obligatory. As Muslims, if we pray together as a community in a mosque, its value is 27 times more than praying at home. That started off when the faith began nearly 1500 years ago. There are some specific prayers throughout the year that you must do in a mosque, particularly when it's end of Ramadan and it's a special prayer on that day. But also every Friday, 52 weeks a year, every Friday, there are prayers on Friday afternoons in mosques that cannot be made at home. They have to be made as a community in prayer. The Imam in the mosque delivers a sermon, we listen, and then we take part in collective worship. And the importance of collective worship is that there's one day of the week, and Fridays are traditionally a holiday in Islamic countries. So there's one day of the week when there's a holiday, everyone comes together to pray, and also it's, as a community, you have a sense of belonging as a community. And that's why it's extremely important, that those values as a community, we continue wherever we are. Friday prayers are just after when the sun is the highest in the sky. And that's how it started off 1500 years ago. So that roughly in the UK, the time is between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. In winter it's slightly late, slightly earlier. In summer it's slightly later. So it's roughly between 1 and 3 p.m. and the time varies in every mosque by about half an hour, but it all falls within that window. The first prayer in the morning is called Fajr. So that is at sunrise, just before sunrise. Soon as the sun has risen, you can't have the Fajr prayer. And then Zohar is just after the sun is at its highest.
Is the second.
Zohar is the second prayer, just after the sun is at its highest. Then the third one is Asr. Asr is late afternoon, but well before sunset. Then there's a prayer at sunset called Maghrib. Maghrib is sunset just a few minutes before sunset, but as soon as the sun has set, you can't have Maghrib prayer. It's not allowed anymore. And then after Maghrib, a few hours later, it's called Isha prayers. And Isha is the longest prayer, and it's at night time. And you can, some people believe, have Isha prayers any time, a couple of hours after sunset to a few hours before sunrise. But traditionally, people have Isha prayers before they go to sleep. During Ramadan, every evening, in every mosque in the globe, they have Isha prayers followed by recitation of the Quran, and they recite a whole chapter of the Quran every evening. So Ramadan is approximately 30 days, 28 to 30 days, and they recite one whole chapter of the Quran every evening, and that lasts a good hour to 2 hours, depending on the speed of the recitation of that. And for Muslims, it's not compulsory, but every mosque will be absolutely packed to the rafters with people, listening to the recitation of the Quran, because the way that the Imam does it, it sounds absolutely fantastic. You're mesmerized by the words that are in the very old ancient Arabic. At difficult times, the council, local community and businesses need to come together even stronger than ever before. And as a council, we're open, we're listening. I think ordinary people have some fantastic ideas of how to improve their quality of life and make their areas better. We're here to enable them and to facilitate that to happen. But also we're able to provide a strong voice for those who haven't got a voice, and ask that people continue to talk to each other. And whether you're white or black or Muslim or Christian or Jewish, we're all in this difficult time together. And as a community, we've got to come out of this stronger than we came into these difficult times. And I think in Kirklees, in places like Huddersfield and Dewsbury and Holmfirth, we've got some really strong communities who will in a few years emerge out of this recession far stronger than we were before this started.
Thank you very much, Mehboob, for taking some time out and speaking to KLTV. And it's Friday. It's getting to that time where you're going to have to leave us. And I wish you all the best in Ramadan. And I wish you all the best in being the leader of the council and the successful career in bringing Kirklees through these hard times.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And a big thank you to KLTV for covering Kirklees community. Lots of fantastic feedback from people who have seen the excellent productions that are on the website.
Thanks very much.